Are there any examples, actual real examples of non-renewable resources? Were non-renewable resources a propaganda term to get us for teachers to reinforce scarcity, the concept of scarcity? I don't know how it is for you. I don't know what your age is, but when I was in school, every year we'd learn about environmentalism and the difference between renewable and non-renewable resources. And they used to tell us that oil was a non-renewable resource, that it came from, and other fossil fuels were non-renewable resources like coal, and that uranium and nuclear energy was non-renewable. Now, for the oil, there's so many other theories, like it's abiotic, or actually by definition, first off, we'd have to accept their premise that it took millions of years to form first. Two, that dinosaurs existed, but it could also be from plants decaying. You'd have to accept all that too. And then three, that it's not a naturally producing thing from the earth. That's what abiotic oil is, I think. And then four, that the idea of, they changed where you're running out of oil to peak oil. Now, peak oil is a confusing term to get you to just accept that term, like, oh, peak oil. But that's just the peak amount of oil that could be extracted and or refined given the number of refineries that are there. But if you increase the amount of refineries and increase the amount of extraction, wouldn't that increase the peak oil? Now, I could be wrong on that, and you may have some kind of an apologetic, especially if you have an oil interest, you may have a way to correct what I'm saying. But that's not, my point isn't to talk about oil. My point is to say there's no such thing as a non-renewable resource. Everything is abundant if you know where to look, and that this concept of non-renewable resources was designed and indoctrinated into us in order to reinforce the concept of scarcity. Now, in front of you your entire life was nothing but abundance. Abundance. Abundance was everywhere. Anytime you went to a store, the shelves were packed. Entirely filled shelves. You've never known an empty shelf, except maybe during a hurricane. That's abundance. That's literal abundance. It wasn't just like one store. It wasn't just like the supermarket. Every single store. And think about how many stores there were. I'm not talking about one shopping center where you can go from store to store to store to store to store. That's just one shopping center. You go to any shopping center, and if you could teleport to every city, and every city has hundreds, if not thousands, of shopping centers, they're all filled, packed to the max with items to purchase. You want to know what the scarcity that you experienced in your life? It was the amount of money that you had in your pocket. Now, if you've done any research, you know that money is fake. It's what we perceive it to be. Now, I'm not even here to talk about the whole money thing. You can look up those stories. But you get the idea that money is artificial. So the only scarcity that you experienced, it was not the products that you could purchase. They were in abundance. Not even in a single location. Anywhere there was a store, the shelves were packed. Think about how many stores there are in the country. I mean, it's unknowable how many stores. Well, I guess it's knowable, but it's a lot of stores. All of them packed with products. Now, they had to purchase those products, but some of them have supply chains and own every part of the supply chain, so they really didn't have to pay for it. Literally, they did on an accounting sheet, but they just, well, if you've taken an accounting class, you'll know what I mean. So you have to pay for these resources. Now, it's nice that we do have the system in place that all these products could be available to you at any time, and we should appreciate the abundance that we have. But we should question the artificial scarcity of the money. The money. And now, here's another one too. They would say, well, the money helps you from wasting. It's just what they want you to believe. Think about how much waste a restaurant has, how much waste any store has, a supermarket. Think of how much gets thrown out in a supermarket, even with all these techniques of lean, Six Sigma, And all these things to make more efficient production, manufacturing, and distribution, and we still have all this waste. Want to know why? Because it's a consumption economy. And the economy is fake. There's fake consumption, fake purchases, over purchases, revolving purchases. What do they call them? Where you sign up auto ship purchases. So the economy's fake, the abundance is everywhere, the only scarcity, but you just can't access all of that abundance because you have a limited amount of resources of money to acquire all of those items. So the key here is to start to layer. I think my channel from now on is going to be describing the artificial scarcity that's there so that you no longer are brainwashed to think that everything is scarce. Everything is abundant, but you've been given you've been given scarce resources to acquire them. And you trade your hours for small amounts of money. And then you give back 4 months of that in taxes, more of it in car payments, whether it's the car note, the gas that you buy, the maintenance, the oil, the major repairs. Just taking your car in sometimes, if you have anything besides an oil change, you're generally going to be out $300 to $500. And if all you're making, and if you're making a scarce wage, that's going to hurt you. And then you also have to have car insurance, health insurance. So all your money that you earn is getting put right back into the pockets of those with absolute abundance of finances. So, is there any examples of real examples of non-renewable resources? I don't believe oil is non-renewable. I don't believe bees are non-renewable. You could always clone a bee, and I'm sure you've seen that facility where they have the DNA of like every single creature out there. And I know it's possible. In 1997, 98, when I was a freshman in biology in college, 1997, 98. We cloned fruit flies. Like I didn't do it, the professor did it. Cloned fruit flies in class to demonstrate natural selection. Notice I said natural selection. I didn't say evolution. Natural selection is a science term. Evolution is a political term. And so this all also ties into, I don't want to say the words because you get screwed up, but climate change. Fake. They layered us in school so that we believe that we're running out of resources, that the world's going to end, the weather's going to make the ice caps melt, glaciers. It's all fake. Now they're wheeling out this little girl to for some reason you have to believe a little girl that it's happening. If they really wanted to fix the problem, here's how you can find out how fake it is. Just say to somebody that believes in it, say, I'll tell you what, I'll compromise with you. I'll say it's real if, watch this, if we say that it's not man-made. They won't accept it. Be like, no, I want to agree with you that we got to do something to fix the climate. But man did not cause it. And when you see that, but you say, I'm willing to help out, I'm willing to, help develop a solution, but the only premise is it can't be man-made. They will absolutely not accept it. They will not compromise that. They cannot allow that, because their whole thing is not to fix the climate or help save the world. It's to extort money. I used to call it, when I used to look at how they work the whole thing, because I always try to extract out what the true meaning is behind something, especially when they require you. I don't know if you know what Kool-Aid is, but Kool-Aid is when you have to swallow a fake truth and then repeat it as if it's true, even though you know it's fake, and you have to believe it. 2 + 2 = 5, 1984, by George Orwell. So believing in requires you to drink the Kool-Aid and never question it and peer pressure everybody into accepting it. And as I looked at the model of it, okay, so anyway, I always try to, when these kind of mind control things happen, I always try to extract out what's the real agenda. And so once I said, well, what if we remove man from it. They don't, they won't, I mean, not only will they not do it, they absolutely like, no, it has to be man-made. And then I even made that video, I hope you've seen it, A Better Green New Deal, the cartoon I made. And I said, why don't we shift the blame off of everyday people onto people that work at like HARP and other ionospheric, modification, weather control situations. I mean, obviously, if they brag that they can terraform Mars, right? There's all these documentaries and movies and Mission to Mars, all these things about changing the climate of Mars. It's like, okay, well, if you know how to do that, obviously you should know how to do it on Earth. It's a lot closer. And so I'm like, yeah, don't blame people, blame the people with access to these kind of technologies. And they just don't answer it. They ignore it. They act as if I didn't just say it or made a video. And because it has to be blamed on you. So then once I realized, so I tried these two angles, saying either let's just not blame people, or if we're going to blame man, let's blame the weather machine scientists and not the everyday people, because everyday people are forced into buying carbon emission vehicles. So like we're forced into it. We shouldn't be held for the blame when we all want to buy alternative energy cars, but none are available or affordable. So they will not take either of those compromises. It has to be man-made and blamed on you and me. And so that's when I started to look at it like, what's actually going on here? And I thought of the Catholic Church model, where you have original sin, and therefore you must pay money in the church basket to gain your salvation, to pay for your sins. You could pay for your sins at church on Sunday. You could do whatever you want all week, so long as you put money in that basket. Then all is absolved. And so I guess they don't have, most people that believe in, don't have a religion. They're generally atheists. So they must see the church model, and they must be so like jealous of it, like, wow, they're extorting all those people. How can we extort people? So now they just took the same thing. They removed original sin and made it that you're an exhaler of carbon dioxide. And you know how back 30 years ago, if you were alive, they used to say, someday they're going to find a way to charge for air. They found it! They're going to charge for air through climate change. So you got to reject this. You got to reject that little kid. You got to reject every Kool-Aid lunatic that you know that requires you to believe in climate change. Try my methods. Ask them, like, hey, can we shift the blame? See if you could shift the blame onto somebody else, and watch how they will not allow it. It's unacceptable. It has to be blamed on you and I, because we're the ones that are going to have to pay the tax. Because the whole thing is an extortion racket. And it's reinforced. And so these, as I said in the other video, they had to reinforce all kinds of stuff on you. Remember, they needed to be able to kill people once the church, by the way, I'm not atheist and I'm not religious. I'm not science, I'm not religion. I am anti-artificial scarcity. I'm anti-lies, anti-deception. I want absolute capital T truth. Like in philosophy class, like absolute truth. I just did a Marco Rubio. I'm a little thirsty. And so that's my point. Non-renewable resources indoctrinated into us as a kid. There's no such thing as a non-renewable. Actually, there is. There's one finite resource. It's not non-renewable. There's two finite resources, and one can be artificially reproduced. Those two things are land. And even that may not be. As far as we know, if we only believe in the map, the Mercator map of the 7 continents, land is finite. Currently, it's pretty abundant. There's a lot of land out there. The reason why we can't inhabit it is because of the artificial scarcity of energy. It's not cost effective to be able to build out and create infrastructure because of the cost of energy. Once free energy comes out, the cost of everything will drop to near zero. It'll just be labor time. And so land is abundant, but it is finite. you can't really create. You could reproduce food, trees. You could plant more seeds for trees. You could, which also will give you more. You could plant seeds for gardens and vegetables, and you could always reproduce cows, and everything is reproducible. The only thing is, I don't know how you can make more land. Now, if you subscribe to the infinite plane theory, then yeah, land is infinite. But given the known world, I can't get there yet because people aren't going to go there. So given the known world, land is finite. I don't know how to make any more land. And that's why real estate, even though land is abundant, is finite. The other thing is you. You are 1 in a billion, 1 in 7 billion. You may have a twin brother or sister, so maybe there is 2 of you, but even still, your brother is your brother. You are you. But we can reproduce you. We can clone you. So you could be cloned. So that's the only other scarce, finite thing that there is. But finite resources, I guess, are non-renewable resources. But the only finite resource is you and land. Okay? So we can make an Android replica of you. We can make an avatar digital replica of you. You are reproducible. So really, let's just leave it at land. But land is pretty dang abundant and will be for quite some time. And even though cities are packed like Tokyo, holy cow, there's so many people there. If we had released the free energy technology, we could spread out and expand out, and so we don't have to be on top of each other. But you got to get rid of the oil monopoly. Just go park yourself outside of a gas station and watch all the cars come through, and you'll see why it's never going to end. There's so much money going in. Every week they extract money from you. All right, well, that's my story. Can you think of any examples of our non-renewable resources? Do you remember being propagandized and indoctrinated into believing in non-renewable resources? This was to get you to believe in the scarcity so that they could continuously charge you for things, to reinforce why there's a limited amount of money in your pocket, why you don't get paid much, and to never get you to see what's in front of you. What was in front of you is abundance, not just in your town, in every town, all across America. Every store, not just one store, not just Walmart, every store packed, the shelves packed, no matter where you go, completely packed. So that's it. Actually, I'm not done. All right. Everything comes from a manufacturing plant, and everything operates on supply and demand. They keep the supply artificially low so that it does not exceed the demand. One, you don't want it for waste, but if there's too much of a product, then you can't charge as much. So artificial scarcity is implemented through that, right? Now imagine if every manufacturing plant was just set to operate at 24 hours a day at a high speed perpetually, like forever. There'd be so much of everything. But that's not done because if there was too much of anything, you couldn't charge for it. Now, also, when the near zero happens, when the free energy comes out, you have to say, hey, you need to demand the price for everything to drop to near zero, because they won't do it on their own. Here's the biggest example. Now, MP3s, they got everybody to forget about MP3s, and now everybody pays for streaming. They tried to get everybody to pay for MP3s. Nobody was doing that on a consistent enough basis. So now everybody pays a fee, like a $10 fee, which is fine, whatever. But when it comes to movie rentals, used to go to Blockbuster to rent a video, and that used to cost like $3 for 2 days or something. It was something reasonable. It was really reasonable. But you understood that Blockbuster had a store, and they had employees to pay, and they had, there was fees that Blockbuster had to pay, and so that's why you had to pay for the video. And it was like $3 for 2 days or something. And you had to return it because there was only a finite amount of VHS tapes or DVDs, even though they could easily reproduce more. They only had a certain amount because they were charged by license, right? So the license was the artificial barrier to entry where they couldn't just have absolute abundance. But nowadays, video on demand, or not quite Netflix, because Netflix is a subscription, but video on demand rentals, they're like $6 for 24 to 48 hours. It's absurd. They charge twice as much and they have zero cost of manufacturing or distribution. And Blockbuster, somebody had to reproduce the VHS tape, ship it to the store, house it. You had a building. You had so many, and employees. You had so many costs. With video on demand, you just have a server, and it exists as like ions of light data. There's no, and yet they charge twice as much for something that's free. The only thing they would say is they have to pay for copyrights or for licensing. But the reality is only six or five or six, depending on how you look at it, different media companies that own everything. So, and you could tell what they own, because that's why you can't get everything on Netflix, and you can't get, and they don't really disclose like, all right, this is the NBC company, this is the, there's Viacom, there's this, that, the other. And so they already own their properties, so they don't really have to pay for it. Those things are in place, those licensing fees, so that you can't create your own competition against them. So they really have no fees. Now they have accounting fees where they pay themselves. So there's no cost, and yet they get to charge. They charge twice as what they used to charge when there was an actual physical store, and they have no cost to it. So once the free energy comes out, you got to make sure that every product, you got to say, what's the cost of making this now? It's only labor. There's no manufacturing, distribution. There's no energy cost. There's no energy cost. What it costs to run machinery is electricity, which is energy. You pay the electric bill. You pay the electric bill, the gas bill to transport it, electric bill to make the machines work. But when free energy's out, those costs won't be there. So the cost of everything's got to go. You have to look at everything and ask, what's the cost of this, and why do we have to pay it? And know that all these facilities could be just turned on 24 hours a day to create an absolute abundance to drive the price to nothing. So everything is, it's not, people could charge what they want to charge, but it's because people are ignorant to the factors of economics. Just to even know that economics is the distribution, the utilization of scarce resources at a given price. But when the price becomes near zero, it's just labor, the price becomes near zero. What was my point? To talk about non-renewable resources, to let you know that this channel is going to be about exposing artificial scarcity, just so that you're aware. So long as people are aware, if we're okay with the prices, and we're okay with the whole thing, and we're okay with people having a limited amount of funds to purchase the abundance and to watch the abundance get thrown into the garbage, if you're okay with that, that's fine. I'm not saying that that's, hey, if you like that, that's cool. So that's it. Yeah, I'm out this time. Thanks for watching. I'm going to try to make this into some cartoon short videos. I hope you like that one I made recently. I'm trying to outdo the socialists and give a better system, the system of abundance-ism instead of the scarcity-ism. And know this, capitalism, socialism, communism, fascism, they're all made by the same people, and they're all based on scarcity, and they all require continued scarcity to keep you in control. That's what I'm trying to stop.